Yeah, I'm so happy you have all made it today on this beautiful sunny day. This exhibition is a celebration of passion, resilience, and the marvelous unpredictability that is the human experience. It is my aim and my purpose as an artist to create experiences in spaces that remind people that there's always light, always hope, no matter how vast the darkness may seem. I know it's possible to create artworks filled with colour that inspires and brings you warmth and love and hope, without staying silent about the darkness within, which comes naturally with the light. There's alchemy in colour. It connects with people. It makes you want to stay in the space, feeling equally nurtured and energized. It is magical to live a life filled with colour. And I'm deeply grateful to be able to hopefully create this for our world, for us and for you today. This series emerged parallel to my slow and challenging healing process as a response to many years of childhood trauma. Working through my dark memories sparked waves of emotion, captured on my canvases, forming my artworks and shaping me as a woman. Throughout my life, I felt I was unable to express in my day-to-day life my anger, sadness, and fear. There seemed to be no way out until I started painting. My practice today, and especially for this series, is to deliberately create the mess I sometimes feel in my heart on the blank canvas. Throwing paint is all my strength, colours splattering, simply expressing all there is and holding nothing back anymore. I would stare at these jumbles of colour and emotion, sometimes for weeks, but eventually finding pockets of beauty. And slowly, layer by layer, I would work on these morsels, bringing to the foreground, underlining all those pieces which seem beautiful to me and are full of hope. I would now like to find those artworks with you together, which express the celebration of life and hope strongest for you. So I invite you to pick one artwork, and I will start our dialogue about the stories behind these artworks. Is there someone who's brave enough and would like to start?
Oh, truly, yeah. You are spitting with that paint. Okay. And you're wearing it as well. Okay, better just you match.
And before you do, I think we should clap for that talk.
Yeah, it has been mentioned a lot, the pink in this exhibition. Some people tend to go to the dark, non-pink artworks, and others are really totally taken by the pink. So there must be some sort of division in it. This artwork was actually it was also a major chaos work at the beginning. There was nothing visible in it, as in beauty. It was just full. But that often I find later, because then there's many, many layers, it has a strength and a power to it which only comes with all those layers and giving it time and letting it sort of evolve slowly. So the pink was really literally bringing in the love and this connection to people, especially I was at that time very grateful for a friend I had for probably nearly 30 years or longer, and we had rarely contact. He lives in Germany, but every now and then he would send me a picture of something beautiful he saw, and that was often all. There was no words or anything, but it felt like there's always these little love messages popping up every now and then, and you keep the contact even though we don't talk to each other, we don't know exactly what's happening at that time, but we still can feel close in that. So bringing that pink was exactly that feeling of there is always something beautiful, even if it's just one picture. And I worked on that with it. Step by step by step, really slowly covering in some form, but also bringing out. So the areas I kept are as important as the pink. And then, yeah, at some point, it was one moment, okay, it's done. That point of it's done is very tricky. My art students know what I'm talking about because it's so very easy to overdo, to do too much, and then it's gone. You have lost the artwork. So to me, it always comes in my inner ear. There's always a point when I really literally hear stop, and it sort of sounds like it's coming with an exclamation mark, but it's also coming in my brain now with an exclamation mark because I've many times made the mistake of, oh, just one more little bit thing, and then it doesn't work. So, yeah, once you see here, I stop early.
So now that you've mentioned it's layers, and now these are just sort of cracks where we can see a glimpse of what's underneath. Do you have any photos of like what was underneath this?
Probably.
Yeah, very interesting.
It was actually very first a figure of that friend, like a what's the word? Like a
Silhouette?
yeah, silhouette. Thank you. And then lots of literally paints on top of it. So yeah, and then taking off.
Ask what mediums you use. This is mixed media, right?
Yeah, it is charcoal and acrylics. I think in this case only. Yeah.
Have you guys been varnished?
No,
sheen.
it's just the medium in the acrylics. I never varnish them at the end. I do like them fairly raw and open.
So you're adding one.
The medium is in the acrylic, yeah. Yeah. But I don't put anything on top anymore at the end. That's nice, as it is. Anyone else?
I like the sound.
Yeah. That one was at least 2 years, if not 3 years of work. So also the same applies. Lots and lots of layers, like endless layers. Probably 20 layers. Meaning always painting the next layer, then letting it dry. And then you get these parts coming through which were from layers underneath. So not painting it completely over, but sort of bringing out in that process. It started probably way back with my divorce and having a really hard time to deal with the feeling of unfairness and the darkness coming with it. At the same time, that divorce meant actually that I stepped into being a full-time artist, moved to Sydney and started my career here fully and embraced it fully with all its ups and downs. So an enormous growth on the, like, as for me as a person, and that is that whole organic, flowery, growing part coming up. So out of that darkness, and maybe you could say like the swamp, came a lot of color and a lot of new beginnings and a lot of light. But the start, there were only little parts. You could sort of get an idea, and often I didn't feel like I had any idea, growing into something new. As a visible part, to me, it's also like a nearly magical moon swept landscape, like full moon night. Therefore, I, called it that. The silence to me is often something I find not that comfortable, but it means also something you can start. And when we pause and have those moments of quietness, often lots of things happen which we can't see at the moment, but there's room for it. We create room for it. It was very important for me in this whole exhibition to leave room and space. And you see that in different canvases where I put very minimal amount of paint or collage material on the canvas for that process of healing. I find the quiet times and the meditative times, the times where I withdraw and go within, are the most fertile, basically, but the hardest to do when you're in the middle of not wanting to feel, because it's always uncomfortable first, but then, healing takes place. Nearly magical, and that is sort of, that feel of, it's something beyond my grasp, it's beyond doing. Anybody, any questions?
One question. Obviously, it has a lot of sentimental value to you. How do you find letting it go to someone else? I mean, there's so much value on the show. That'll be like a part of your heart being ripped out, not having it with you to, How do you emotionally deal with selling it? Say?
I find that actually more the other way around. It gives me so much happiness when they sell. Because, what I've talked about, all of us know in some form. Everyone has some trauma, everyone carries some story, something. We all know that there's times when there's a lot of darkness and we don't know what's going on. We need that sort of light to come back, but we can't make it. So to me, it's like that is the message of this painting, and when it hangs in somebody else's space and people can see it, like that is all I want to do is spread that and bring that hope and light. And if they go fast, great, because I have 100 others in me. It is fine. I'm really enjoying that process because that whole idea that somebody else gets that message is so beautiful.
Can I say something? Another thing is too, when you sell an artwork, you're sharing a piece of yourself with that person, and that person that purchases that has that sort of connection with you, the artist, and they'll look at that and they'll say, oh wow, this is what she thought about, this is what she was doing, and you're enjoying that every day, and I think that's the greatest compliment an artist can have.
I love that.
Somebody else is a different art. Yeah, okay. Funny enough that you asking, because John and Bree, John is my son, Bree is Michelle's and Maria's daughter. They are married in Kirana, and they were really looking closely at that painting. They were thinking of wanting it. Then they asked me to create a different one, just because of the size. But it's funny that you're asking for that painting. Yeah, so the main start to this one was, I see color around people. So I see sort of moods, tendencies, personalities. I see color around music and plants and spaces. So it's a different way of understanding, which is, I think, fairly common, but maybe not so often talked about. But it's how I remember things. Every number has a color for me. So my whole brain works with color, basically. And when I see a lot of people come together, it is that sort of feel of everyone's skill is different and everyone looks differently, and bring something special. And when we all come together, it suddenly works. And there's like this whole idea to me of when we can all be ourselves and come together in a positive or voluntary way, not pressed into each other, but celebrating life. It looks like this. Everyone brings something else, and it's some sort of harmony. You could call it chaos as well, which is both, but it works together well. Many people have actually asked me if that is the beach, or that is the water and that's the beach. You can see it both ways. I started it the other way around, but it's worked much better this way around. So to me it was more a get together, a celebrating together, a special event where everyone is happy and enjoys. It can be a wedding, it can be a Christmas party, it can be any party, something like that of just really being joyful together, and at the same time everyone can be themselves.
The joy definitely comes out.
I like it, it's really energetic.
Yeah, yes, it is that, how we, sort of give each other a lift.
I think it's the usage of complementary colours, the orange and the black, it jumps next to each
Yeah,
other.
yes.
So a lot of energy, use energy.
And there are also dark spots as well.
Yes, there's always that.
Elephant in the room.
Yes, could be the elephant in the room, could be that we all have that side. We all have a side which is heavy in some form, or we have depressed days.
Without it, we don't see the harmony.
Yeah, exactly. So that is important, and that's important to me because it's often in our society something we shouldn't talk about, we shouldn't bring to the table. Just have fun, that sort of sentiment, but the darkness is important, and it's part of us, and it's part of our personality, and it also gives us compassion and empathy and so on. Like, it's without it we're just puppets. So it is together, it always works together. You will always find dark areas in all of them. Yeah. Any other questions?
How important was art in your healing journey? Like, how did it kind of aid you in getting through, from your traumatic childhood through to your adulthood and your development as a woman, as a person, a mother, a partner? How did it kind of aid you and kind of propel you along to come to that healing point?
It's really my go-to place at all times, and has always been already as a child. That was where I went painting or drawing or scribbling. I've been, as a child or growing up at school, I've been often pulled up because of dreaming. But dreaming was for me seeing pictures, making sense of the world of school, of whatever was around me in pictures, and then creating it into, as I said before, into something beautiful, or at least trying that. It's essential. I always feel like if I can't paint, that would be a disaster. I wouldn't make it. It kept me sane.
Sorry, Kirana, are you self-taught?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many years did it taken you to evolve sort of in your practice?
Now, all my life, in some form, full time, since I'm in Sydney, it's nearly 10 years. So this sort of work has emerged in the last 10 years. Not all these paintings, but being, fully.
And how important do you think an artist being self-taught versus being children, some type of schooling?
I'm torn in that as well a bit. I've had many times when I thought, oh, should I study? And is that then valuable or does it bring anything towards it? Over and over I have decided against it because I don't want to intellectualize it. That is my biggest part in that. It is such an emotional part of me and I don't want to put it into a box. I've always talk a bit about an example of, I love dancing, but whenever I tried like belly dance or different dances, I felt so stifled.
Yes.
And at some point I decided I won't do that anymore. I just dance and it doesn't matter what it looks like and there's no order to it or anything, but I'm
You're free.
enjoying it, exactly. And it's the same for me with painting.
But how do you feel standing up against other artists that are in the industry? I mean, and in society,
Yeah.
does it affect you? Was it something that you had to overcome and say, you know, no, I know what I'm doing, I don't have to have it?
I'm slowly overcoming it. I'm still in the process of it, and it depends on the days. But I don't think that if I would study, that I wouldn't have those doubts. Like I would still have days where I feel like, oh, this is just useless. What am I doing?
But that's coming from you. How does the industry view? Because I'm the same, like you, I'm self-taught, but I'm feeling like would we be eaten up in the industry, being attacked? You know, is that kind of something that I'm not sure, you know, set out, but that's sort of.
I don't
holds me
feel
back.
like that at all. But I have more a sense of. I think I just don't take any note. I just don't listen to that, or I don't read any of those things. I don't go into. I'm a complete non-news reader or any of those things. So it just goes past me, I think, and then I don't have to think about it.
So you haven't experienced anything?
No, not nasty, but I have comments like my 3-year-old could do that better, or those sort of things happen. Yes. It's you can.
Makes it stronger.
In some way, I mean,
because kids are creative geniuses.
exactly. It's a compliment.
Yes.
If I could do a 3-year-old, great. If I can finally get my head out of the way, then perfect. Wonderful. So yes, I hope when I'm 90, I'm a 3-year-old in painting again. Get to that point. What you wanted to say?
I was just gonna say, have you at some point made up a diploma just saying the universe has gifted me the gift of color and this is my gift?
Yeah, I could do that. I haven't done it. I think the main diploma is your own conviction. Like once I'm confident, then yes, and that's just work slowly. Growing your confidence is just keep going.
It is a gift, isn't it?
It is a gift, yes, and
But you know the word academic. If you make it academic, then it just feels like a factory process thing versus the stories you
copies
told.
out of mind.
The stories that you told us, that just
That's
moves
beautiful.
people and that comes across. You can't put a box around that or a value.
no, I hope not.
That's where the awesomeness is.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can agree with you, like it's harder work. So getting a gallery space, getting, representation, any of those things, it makes it much harder if you're self-taught. Yeah. Anyone else? The main part of it is stairs, and that's going up in some form towards heaven, but also a spiritual growth, inner growth of walking towards the light is the same. It was, it started when I took 2 months off to stay on the Greek island and just paint. All my kids had just left home, and it was a bit shocking suddenly to come to this end point of, wow, there were over 30 years of schooling different age kids, and now that's it, finished. I just lost my role. So I decided to take time off and really be by myself and really fully be by myself. which wasn't so easy. Like it sounds, always when I talk about it, people say, oh, I wish I could do that. But there were also times when it felt like exile. I just had to put myself into a place where I had not at all, like no friends, no nothing. Different language. I speak a bit of Greek, but not a big amount. It was a very remote island, even in Greek terms, and I was far away from the town and had no electricity or even running water was like I had to go to a well to get water. So a very different style of living than what we do here, or what I live as well here. But I had an endless amount of time, and I sort of, to just live with myself, which was, beautiful as well as hard at times. And I painted at the end 15 artworks. Not all of them were finished, but this is one of them, and probably the biggest of all of them, because I had to roll them all up in a backpack, and the height of the backpack was, the width of the artwork. That was all I could carry. There I found lots of light. I don't know, the people who have been in Greece, Sydney reminds me, the Sydney light reminds me of the Greece light. It has some very light and beautiful quality. It brings out colors really well. And then the villages are full of stairs. You're constantly walking upstairs mainly towards chapels and places of worship in some form of spirituality, and coming to quiet places. So often there's beautiful old trees you can sit under and so on. So I use that lots, I walk lots, and that feeling of walking towards the light, walking towards silence in some form, but also like a sacred spiritual silence, not a heavy I'm by myself silence. It more felt like, to me it felt like getting really closer to God and coming, really feeling that contact, feeling like it makes sense what I'm doing here, without thinking it, more really, let me feel it.
Did you feel like you were surrounded by some of your family or ancestors? Because it's called Familiar Stories. Was there like some sort of
I use that more as a idea of having ancestors to me in that sense was like stepping on solid ground. So there is a line of people behind me in some form. It wasn't so much that I felt them around, but it was more that their stories in some form have formed my story and so on, and I can use it in a good way to walk towards the light and transform it, still making myself like it's like a strong base. So that is my starting point.
And what's your ancestry? Whereabouts are you from?
Germany. Okay. I lived there till I was 27, so Australia was my choice of place to live. Yeah. Is there anything anyone wants to add, or are you fully satisfied? Because we can stop and just walk around, and I'm still happy to talk and be with you a bit. I don't know.
I love this.
Yeah.
And I like how you've titled it as well. And I was trying.
It's definitely to do with my partner Peter, who's in the background. To me, it was that feel of an evening or night talk, sitting together, being close. It's dark, and you only see silhouettes, nothing is sharp anymore. But I find often in those times that you can talk very softly and more gentle, and it's like a gift of the day, or like a closing the day in a beautiful way. So it's that. It's also in some other way connected to the whole of the theme of it. It's it's fairly dark, but then there's strong light coming through. So it's connected to that knowledge that even in times of hardship or issues or problems, there's definitely always a light moment and light coming through, and it could be at night, even though you're in the dark.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of the deep blue sea. It's like the lost deep blue sea, and then sometimes there's when you're diving or under water, some shaft of light comes through, and that was the thought that came in my mind.
That makes total sense as well. Like you could see it as looking up into sunlight. Yeah, in diving I find that often that light is so defined suddenly. Suddenly you can really grab it. It has such a clarity.
Yeah, and it's fleeting.
Yeah, that's true.
From second to second.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Can you talk about the pink and yellow one, the summer one? My favorite one.
Yeah, the pink and yellow one is my grandson. My first grandchild was on his way. And I was sure it was, so it was that time of, it feels like, summer is the right word, but in that sense of, suddenly you feel the freedom and happiness and joy coming along without, the day before it looked like everything was normal, and then suddenly the sun comes through and it gets warmer, and we can get our dresses out and we can rejoice again into life. So it was that, just finding out I'm going to be a grandmother, and I finally have no responsibility anymore. I can just be myself, because it's not my child. I don't have to do all that hard work, in some form hard work. I can just enjoy this new life, and I fully do.
That reflects your.
Colour shade is strong. Yes.
I've noticed you prefer working on raw linen.
Yes.
Is that any particular reason? Or you
I
like
do
the
like
brown?
raw, that feeling of raw. Like I like the texture. I like also in the non-literal way that there's always still a sort of unfinished part to it, an alternate possibility to change and move. It's not completely filled, and I love texture for the feel of it. So I'm also somebody who could not have a Kindle. I need a book in my hand, like that feel of paper and feel of material is an important part of painting. And I often, as you can see, have my hands